Come on, you apes, do you want to live forever? Well, at least until the extraction starts and the respawn timer goes, I'd say yes, I do. Right. Starship Troopers Extermination just left early access, and I took it for a spin, or at least as much as I was able to. In a world where Helldivers 2 exists, how does Starship Troopers rate? Does the original outshine the inspired? Let's talk about it. Hello, this is Robert with Society Case Files, and I'm coming to you today with a first impression of Starship Troopers Extermination. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy this kind of content. Hit the like button and leave a comment. I appreciate it. Let's dive in. Extermination started early access back in May of 2023. I played it with some friends, and it was a reasonably good time, though very rough. Helldivers 2 wasn't out yet, so there wasn't a really good comparison. I thought it captured the feel of the movie really well, and it showed off some pretty neat graphics, along with some great sounds and the feel of a Starship Troopers adventure. Jump nearly a year and a half later, and the game's out of early access, but it's been met with some mixed reviews on Steam. Some of these are performance related, while others are, well, just general gameplay. When I first set out to make the video today, I had some pretty major troubles just trying to make that happen. From graphics problems to not being able to get into the game to having crashed to desktops, I experienced a pretty decent gamut of problems, and that makes it pretty obvious why people are unhappy. All around, once it started working, I thought it had a lot of fun elements. You know, having 16 players run around with you makes it feel like there's something big happening. There's plenty of bugs to shoot. You can build stuff. That's kind of neat. The objectives themselves keep you moving from one point to the next. The sounds are great. And there's a lot of immersion here. I like the models. They look good. The problem comes from the walls and the floors. Sometimes those aren't the best. They look a little dated, and it's a shame since, you know, much of what you're doing in the game does look good. The sky domes are awesome, but these textures just needed some help. And if I was to compare that to Helldivers 2, it looks a lot cheaper. Ultimately, I think that's why people really do hammer it, since Helldivers 2, filling in this sort of narrative of the democracy and all that stuff more intensely than Extermination, really makes people say, but they did it better. And they kind of did in a lot of ways. But we do have to remember that these are very different niches to fill. Whereas Helldivers 2 is 4 guys going behind enemy lines to do crazy stuff, Starship Troopers is more like a military operation where a couple of squads are going to go in and take care of some objectives. And so knowing that, it does make them different enough that I think they can both exist in the same world, because honestly, the Starship Troopers is just a simpler product all around. Helldivers 2 has more enemy types and more going on with the big ship, and you kind of do get to really work on your character more specifically. Whereas I'd say that Starship Troopers has more in common with like Battlefield or something along those lines than it does with Helldivers 2. Yes, you're going to a planet, you're fighting aliens, and then you're extracting, but that's really where the similarities end. There's several classes in Extermination that do feel very much like the big standard FPS games like Call of Duty or Battlefield. They do feel different for the most part. I like playing the Ranger because you have a little jetpack. You can rocket around and do bigger jumps. It's kind of fun. The guns don't hit quite as hard as some people would like, it seems, and I kind of see where they're coming from, but they must not have really watched the movie, because if they did, they'd know that the devs kind of stuck to the source material. Honestly, if anything, the bugs are probably a little too easy to kill, especially if we're trying to stick to canon. I was tearing up the warrior bugs really fast without emptying my entire magazine into them. But, you know, aside from that, I'd say that the biggest thing when it comes to Helldivers 2 and Extermination, the thing that we should probably take away the most is that Helldivers 2 feels like a big blockbuster experience, whereas Extermination has a bit more of a B-movie feel, which is kind of funny because I'm sure that way back when the movie came out, we could say the same thing, that it was kind of a B-movie that had a little bit of a blockbuster style special effects budget. So all that said, I have had some fun with Starship Troopers, but there are a lot of legit complaints in the discussion forum and in the reviews. And I highly recommend checking them out and just see if any of those are deal breakers or if they might apply to you. Just as an example, when I tried to get in, my first experience was I hit matchmaking. It asked me to wait 90 seconds. At the end of the 90 seconds, the game just crashed. Got back in, tried again. Another 90 seconds. This time I got into a game. As soon as I was about to pick my class, I was kicked back to the menu. Tried again, got to the game, game crashed. Tried again, got into the game, had those graphics glitches. Quit myself so that I could fix them. Finally solved that problem. Finally got into a game, and it finally worked the way it was supposed to. Just that experience alone is not unique. It's not rare, especially if you read what people are saying. So that's a little rough, and it does make the whole experience pretty clunky. If you're worried about those sorts of things, if your computer is not great, you might experience some pretty big issues. In fact, some people have been saying that shouldn't really be considered a full release, but just a beta. And honestly, that's fair. The price also dings it. They want $50 for Extermination, while Helldivers is only $40. And with the difference in polish, it makes it hard to give them that extra cash. And you add the microtransactions in Extermination, which are cosmetic, each costing about $10 a piece, and it's a little hard to swallow, particularly since they have a button next to it that says View Details. And when you do, it doesn't even have a paragraph. It just relists the title of the cosmetic. So it's like, really, guys? Can't even write something to take my money? That just makes it feel more like a beta. Anyway, if a friend really pressed me and said, I've got to know, what do you think? I'd say try to give it another 5 or 6 months to cook before giving it a shot. By then, it should also be on sale, so it'll probably be the price it should be. That said, the Steam chart doesn't look great. The Steam shows that 1,800 were playing at the time of this video being filmed, and the all-time peak was 16,000, but that was all the way back when it first came out. This isn't necessarily an indication of how many people are playing, though, because I played mostly with Xbox players. Obviously, Steam isn't tracking them, and then there's other ways to get into it as well. So who knows? There may be plenty, but considering the challenges I had getting into the game, and I know a lot of people who are less patient than even I am, they just give up and refund it. So I don't know. It's tough to say that it'll even be around in 6 months or have enough people to make a 16-player map work. So I guess go with your gut. If you're really gagging for a Starship Troopers game, then, try it now before it goes away and try and boost those numbers. Maybe you're going to have a great experience and you'll leave a good review and influence some people and keep it rolling. Or you will have a really bad experience and you'll get a refund from Steam. Whatever the case, that's kind of my first impression. I hope that it helps you understand where we're at with the game and gives you at least a nudge in one direction or another. Have you tried Extermination and do you like it? Or are you firmly in the Helldivers camp so you don't really see a reason to give it a shot? What platform do you play it on? Let me know in the comments below and subscribe if you haven't already. I look forward to seeing what you have to say. Anyway, this is Robert from Society Case Files, and I'm signing off.